Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to introduce to you now. Dr. Jodi Nishida is a doctor of pharmacy and an accredited metabolic healthcare practitioner who has been in healthcare for over 27 years. After experiencing the ketogenic lifestyle's effect on her own autoimmune condition, she decided to build a keto-based medical practice called the Keto Prescription so that others could benefit from it as well. Over the last 4 years, she has helped over 2,500 patients realize the benefit of a clean, medically guided ketogenic diet. With an accreditation in ketogenic nutrition, certifications in cardiovascular disease management, pharmacogenomics, and medication management, and firsthand experience working in gastrointestinal and women's health clinics, Jodi works closely with each patient to tailor keto to their medications, medical conditions, lifestyle, and socioeconomic situation. Jodi believes that health is not a one size fits all approach, and we all have unique challenges. According to her, because all of us are addicted to sugar and processed food to some extent, fueled largely by our food industry, she has also partnered with two highly qualified psychologists locally to help her patients address the root of their eating behaviors. Dr. Jodi Nishida, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a joy to host you. I told you off air that I need to stop inviting really smart people onto the show that have really long words associated with them. There were two goof ups in introductions that people will never hear. I'm going to delete them. Nobody's going to know about it, but stumbled on some of the big words. But it is such a joy to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's good to see you in August at the conference.
It was great to see you as well. I thought that conference was outstanding.
Yeah.
Doug and Pam always do such a great job, but to have that day, it's just like legendary now. That Thursday, all about mental health, and to hear that theme
Yes.
carried on throughout the
Yeah.
weekend was, that to me was awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was so valuable. And I mean, we have such a big problem with that in our country and growing numbers in our youth, largely fueled by what's in our food and just a lot of different factors that really was so valuable.
Yeah, I agree. It was cool to look around the room and see like, oh, that person got over cancer and that person, reversed their
Hmm.
diabetes. This person lost 200 pounds. I'm sitting next to a person who
Hmm.
used to be bipolar and reversed out of that. Like it's such a cool
Yeah.
room of people who are seeing so many like health benefits from this. So it was great to meet you in person. I've loved your content over the years. You do such a great job making this message like really kind of user friendly and people are really drawn to it. Some of the interviews that stand out, the episode you did on low carb MD with Tro and Brian during the pandemic, where the three of you were just all getting so wound up about we got to partner up, we got to do something to get this message out. I love
Yeah.
that. But my favorite podcasting moment was a recent one where you were hosted on Sean Baker's podcast
Yeah.
and you got to ask him personally. You were like, hey, I've just been curious about that. I think I eat mostly meat and I think I'm carnivore, but sometimes I have some broccoli. Do I still count as a carnivore? I love that you asked the king carnivore that question. That was my favorite.
Yeah, I didn't know. And you know what's funny? I was like, well, since I'm talking to him, I might as well ask. Um, Fun fact about Sean Baker and Anthony Chafee
Here we go.
is they hate vegetables. They have since childhood. And so that was the initial primary reason that they stopped eating vegetables. And then lo and behold, carnivore lifestyle becomes an actual thing and a legit medical approach. And so, I didn't know that about either of them until like 1 to 2 months ago. And I thought that was funny. And at the conference, the last night, um, I was eating dinner. Anthony Chafee was sitting across from me and there was like a sprig of rosemary on top of my steak. And as soon as the lady brought it, he looked at it and he was like, that is so gross. Are you going to eat that? And I was just, dude, it's rosemary. Calm down. He's so funny.
That's amazing. I love those guys.
Yeah,
They're so funny. I
me
love them
too.
both. And
Yeah.
yes, I talk all the time on this show. Like it seems to me so ridiculous that we have to like micro kind of like I don't know, say whether somebody's carnivore or not carnivore. Like I always think of it as like if you're eating mostly animal products, a carnivore in nature
Yeah.
is 70 to 75% animal products. Let's just say that, and most of us can coexist just fine whether somebody's eating a small sprig of parsley or not.
Yeah, I'll tell you an interesting fact. So, I'm head of the resources committee within the SMHP, who hosts these conferences twice a year. And we were on a conference call and we were making a handout. And everyone was like, well, do we use the word keto or do we only call it low carb? What do we do? And all the providers on this call were like, I'm really trying to shy away from the word keto because it has such a negative press. And when everyone was done talking, I said, I am not going to shy away from the word keto. It's actually in the name of my medical practice, right? The Keto Prescription. And I'm not going to shy away from the word keto because this is a ketogenic diet that originated in the 1920s. And whether you're doing keto, ketovore, carnivore, low carb, whatever iteration of it you want to call it, ultimately our goal is to get into and stay in some level of ketosis. And so we need to not drop the word, because once we do that, I think as a group, we open ourselves up to all kinds of misinterpretation when the goal is ketosis.
Yeah, I agree. This is part of the reason why I've asked a lot of my guests about this as well. The Hack Your Health conference in Austin used to be called KetoCon. And I
Yeah,
understand, I get it, but I prefer KetoCon. I wish it would have just stayed kind of in that
stay.
lane. Yeah, but not my conference, not my thing. But yeah, it's been interesting to gather different opinions about that.
Yeah. And I think we're also shell shocked because we still do get a lot of criticism from the medical community that for some strange reason refuses to just open their mind to this. You see all the memes on social media, right? No one was saying anything when I was eating donuts and Doritos all day, but now that I'm eating steak and eggs, it's like a giant debacle, right? It's the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And in our medical practices, we have to deal with this constantly. You know, you heard me tell this story to Sean Baker of the doctor that called me and yelled at me for fixing her patient's fatty liver. Like, that was insane, and that's just one example.
Can you share that example? That again, I try not to be surprised by this stuff, but I'm always surprised by this level of pushback. This is crazy. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah. So, you know, I I'm out in Hawaii, right? And so I would say a third of my patients are Filipino or some Filipino mix. And what I've observed, I'm not saying this is an actual medical fact, is that they have a very high degree of fatty liver disease. It's probably a combination of all the tropical fruit tend to eat with desserts and rice and all these other things. And so I have a lot of people come to me to reverse fatty liver, which, as you know, Casey, with keto and carnivore, you can so easily fix that. I swear in 3 to 6 months. It's like piece of cake, right? Well, I did this in a patient and I got a phone call from her PCP who yelled at me like, I had to kind of do this on the phone. How dare you reverse my patient's fatty liver? If I find out you're seeing any of my other patients, I'm going to file a complaint against you. So once her volume started to come down, I said, what I want to know is what you're really mad about, because I did what we are supposed to be doing as doctors. And she said, my patient doesn't need me anymore, which, come on, that's such a fear-based mentality that comes from a place of lack. There are so many people that need healthcare. I can't name a single doctor out there, unless you're terrible at what you do for a living, that is not getting an influx of new patients. So why then this mindset of we have to keep them sick so they keep coming back is my question.
That's crazy. That is mind blowing. No,
Yeah.
so how does it feel now with your current practice? We're going to get into your personal story and everything, but how does it feel now in your current practice when somebody says, "Hey, thank you for everything. I really appreciated it. I don't need you anymore. I'm good. See you later."
My goal is to educate and empower my patients, get them to a place of optimal health, and then cut the umbilical cord. And I tell them this up front because I always take new patients. In the month of August, I got something like 65 new patients on top of the ones that I was already seeing. And I am not one to create codependence or anything like that. Ask my children, they know this. Like, it's about education and empowerment. And that's how medicine should be practiced. So I want them to leave at some point, sooner the better. That means you caught on and you did it faster, right?
Yep. I love that. Yeah, we love getting fired
Yeah.
around here for like a nutrition coaching client or somebody who needed us for personal training. We taught them some skills and they're like, cool, I'm going to go practice these on my own. It's like, great. That's awesome. There's always more people
Yeah.
to help, like you said. So I love that approach. And as I was
Yeah.
diving a little bit deeper into your story, as we mentioned in the introduction, you've been in healthcare for over 27 years. Like she was
Mhm.
a pharmacist for like 14 years. She did this and this other industry for so long. How old are you? You look like you're 30.
I make 52 in December.
No way.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's the
Like,
keto.
yeah, apparently, or either that or you graduated at the age 2 or 3 and started practicing. Like, that's
No,
incredible.
no, no, no.
Wow.
I appreciate that.
Well, okay, so
Yeah.
I remember probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, I started training a guy. He was a pharmacist. And so that was the first kind of I guess like learning I'd ever had about what the job was like. And we just did some training. It was way before I found low carbohydrate stuff. I could not believe what this guy's career was like. It was so many hours, so much work, so much BS that he had to put up with on so many levels. It was
Yeah.
nuts. I'd always have to be rescheduling workouts for him because if he called in, he was working like easy 60 hours a week. It's every pharmacy job like that.
Well, okay. So there's retail pharmacy, which is like your CVS, your Walgreens, where they're counting pills by fives and they're filling prescriptions, right? So just think of the sheer number of prescriptions the average person is on. That'll kind of give you an idea of how stressful and busy it is. Meanwhile, the phone is constantly ringing. People are up at the counter saying, hey, can I talk to the pharmacist? I have a stuffed nose. What do I take for that? And you're getting all these phone calls from doctors' offices all day long. Okay, so it's very stressful. Then there's hospital pharmacy, where you're dealing with the patients that are staying in hospitals. You're calculating all these doses of these dangerous medications for them. You're rounding in on the floors with the doctors. Like it's two very different jobs, and I've done both. Um, the job in the CVS and the Walgreens sucks. You have to be a very unique and special unicorn of an individual, in my opinion, to do that for a living because not only are you standing all day, we have become a society where, I'm going to tell you this as a doctor, it takes zero effort and energy to write a prescription. And I think the problem has become laziness, right? Why? This is what patients say. How come every time I go to the doctor, I'm given another prescription? Because that's the easiest way to get you in and out of the office in 5 minutes or less, right? The more patients we see, the more money we make because the more we can bill the insurance companies. To actually teach a patient how to eat, sleep, relax, exercise takes time. Nobody wants to do that. So the retail pharmacists are just inundated. You know, it's mind-blowing. And I did it for a number of years. And then I was like, I can't do this anymore. This sucks. You know, I was really sad. Like, what am I going to do? I don't think I can do this.
Wow, that's crazy.
Mhm.
We just recently did a whole episode about this, and I want to get your opinion. I don't think we talk about side effects of medications enough. As a
Mm.
pharmacist, what do you see? Like you have to kind of juggle not only a primary medication, but also medications that deal with potential side effects and how those affect other things. How are you able to stay on top of any of that? And do you think that people are talking about side effects as much as they need to be?
No. Wow. I love that you brought this up. No one ever talks about this. Okay, so within the electronic system that is used in each pharmacy, all of the side effect information is built in. Okay, so electronically, the system is supposed to be flagging for drug interactions and all these things. Okay, but no system is perfect. And it doesn't take into account individuality. Because, Casey, you might take a Z pack for your cold and flu and be fine. You are an average white male. Then I take the same Z pack for my cold and flu, and I have a host of side effects. Why? Because I am an Asian female. And if you look at how clinical trials are designed, it is usually 90% white men and women. But the world is very diverse. And that's my beef with clinical trials. It tells me nothing about how any of these medications are going to react in a diverse culture and population like we have here in the state of Hawaii or the state of California, right? And so pharmacists in pharmacy school, in the first year and a half, we follow the exact same track as MDs, where you're learning all of the anatomy, the physiology, all of the different disease states that exist. But in the last 2.5 years of our schooling, it is all medication focused, where we are learning exactly how medications work, how they interact, what patterns and trends you can look for, all the different side effects. The pharmacist board exam, to pass it, is extremely difficult. Now, having said this, pharmacists are the experts in medications. Why are MDs doing the prescribing?
That was my next question that drives me nuts. I lived in
So
Brazil
the
for 2 years.
entire model is flawed.
I lived in Brazil for 2 years, and it was the pharmacists who were giving out the medications. And before then, I'd never thought about it. And I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense. These are the ones that know the most about the medications. Why are they not writing the prescriptions? That's crazy to me.
Yeah. And so, in the hospitals, they have a system that works where the pharmacists and the MDs will typically work hand in hand. Okay. So that's in the hospitals. But out in the community, when you go to see your PCP or your cardiologist, your endocrinologist, or whoever, it's the complete opposite. They have, okay, for lack of a better word, they have all the power. They do all the prescribing and everything. And I've always said, I think the perfect model, and Tro and Brian were all over this. Like, when can you start working with us? Was you've got to have a pharmacist embedded in the clinic to help make better decisions, medication decisions for each patient. Now, here's the other caveat that's huge. I spent a number of years working in pharmacogenomics. Okay, pharmacogenomics. So they can map out your genome to tell you which medications you're going to have side effects with and which ones you're not.
Wow.
That's a thing. And I did that for about 5 years. So if everyone could just get that done, and it's a simple cheek swab, they just analyze your DNA. Can you imagine how many side effects could be prevented just in the US alone, and how much more sensible prescribing of medications there could be? Because it also tells you what medications you will respond very well to based on your genes.
That's so interesting. Okay, so if I have an appointment with my primary and it's at 2 p.m. and I go in and I receive a prescription, how do I know that that prescription was best for me, or was my prescription written because there was a rep in the office 2 hours before providing lunch for everybody and gave them all mouse pads and labeled pens?
I'm going to tell you that as someone that works in an office where we do get, because I work with a cardiologist, and so we get lunch once a week from a different cardiology drug rep. I'm going to tell you, as someone that worked in the pharmaceutical industry for almost 18 years in different capacities, including being a drug rep, it's true. It's like, who was in here most recently? Who has brought us the most lunches? Who have I become personal friends with? As well as, what is the insurance company paying for right now, right? It has nothing to do with you as an individual. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with you as an individual. That's the truth. And medicine is not a one size fits all approach. We are all different, but shouldn't we be spending tons of time talking about food and exercise and sleep and stress management first? Shouldn't that be our approach for 5 to 10 appointments? And if you pick up on the fact that your patient is sugar and food addicted, which we all are to some degree, bring in the psychologist. Why are we so quick to medicate? The answer is, it takes the least amount of time and energy.
Yep. Yep. And if you do that, you're going to get yelled at by more primary care doctors.
You are, because in this day and age, and you and I are living in this wonderful time. We are on the leading edge of where this is becoming a thing, right? Why are they ignoring it? Why? Okay, so here's one answer I get. Well, we didn't learn this in school. Shit, I didn't learn it in school either. But I bothered to take the time to learn it and go through this certification accreditation process because it's the right thing to do. So if your doctor is not doing it, it's not because something is wrong with what we do. It's because they're not taking the time to even consider it. And that to me is a tragedy. That is what's contributing to the demise of the health of our country, 1,000%.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I've said this before, like that's how good money is. That is how great it is to have lots of money and have these schedules where you're seeing patients every 5 minutes. It must be that good. Like apparently like sleeping at night, knowing you did the best you could that day is not like the very best motivator. It's money.
It's money. And a lot of people, I think, go into medicine because they know they're going to make a lot of money. It's not because they're super altruistic and are like, I want to save lives. I think that's few and far between, is the truth.
Wow, that's fascinating. I want to go back to your personal story. And like you alluded to, you did spend time as a pharmacist, but also you spent time as a drug rep. What was that kind of transition like for you?
Okay, very long story short, I decided to leave pharmacy and become a rep because I needed more flexibility in my schedule as a single parent. Okay, so that was my big motivating force to quote unquote go over to the dark side, is what we called it. While these companies are solely after money and profit, they are a business and they really have a duty to keep their shareholders happy. They don't actually give a crap about your health, is what people need to realize. I am actually thankful that I had the opportunity to spend a number of years in this industry, and here's why. Pharmacists and doctors don't learn anything about running and managing a business. Pharmacists and doctors are not trained to communicate, connect, and talk to people. As a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company that has limitless amounts of money, boy, oh boy, do you get all kinds of continual training in this. And I reaped the benefits of all of this. Honestly, I have to use everything I learned in sales training with my patients every single day. Okay, like it's funny. This is funny, but it's true. When you're a drug rep, very early on, it's very important that you learn how to close the doctor, right? And so you'll hear stupid things like, so Dr. Casey, will you put your next 5 patients on Lipitor? That is closing the deal. And when your manager is riding with you, they want to see your ability to do this to some degree, if not word for word. Okay. And I used to balk at this, like, that is so corny. If I say this to the doctor, I'm going to get kicked out of his office. I can't do it, especially in Hawaii. That's against our culture. You just don't do this stuff. Yet, I find myself doing this with my patients every single day. So, Casey, will you go walking 3 times a week for 30 minutes? Do I have your commitment to do that? Yes, Dr. Jodi. And then I kind of laugh to myself quietly inside, like, where I couldn't do that as a drug rep. I'm doing it all day long in my clinic.
Wow, that is so funny. So I grew up Mormon, and the reason why I lived in Brazil is because I served a 2-year Mormon mission, and they teach you that
Nice.
exact same thing. It's called the commitment pattern, and you lean in and
Yes.
you go, Jodi, would you like to join us at our church service this Sunday? It's
Yeah,
the same thing. Yeah.
it is the same thing. And it's so important, because, Casey, who are we dealing with? We are getting patients who they feel the system has failed them. They are sick and tired of being gaslit by their doctor and put on prescription after prescription. By the time they get to us, the keto doctors, they're just so burnt out. And we are honestly their last hope. And you have to have the ability to spend time, talk, connect, establish trust, have empathy. And a lot of doctors don't have it. They just don't have it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that explanation. That was wonderful. So where in your timeline, like being burned out of the industry and all this stuff, did you find keto and ketogenic diets?
So yeah, um, what happened was a very close family member of mine had a heart attack. Okay. And I was casually telling this to one of my colleagues who said, you should put this person on keto. And I said, what's a keto? And he said, I know how you are. Research it. And I went down the rabbit hole. I must have spent 300 hours reading books, watching YouTube videos, because I was constantly just mind blown at how much this made sense. Okay. So I learned everything I could because back then there weren't a lot of keto doctors, right? The information was a little spotty. And I said, hey, I was told to have you do this. It could prevent a second heart attack. I learned everything I could about it. We're going to do this together and be accountability partners. So in doing this, my super severe autoimmune condition that I'd had for 13 years, doing weekly injections for 13 years, went into complete remission. And it's been in remission for 8 years now. I had to inject myself for 13 years just to be able to hold something.
Wow.
It was so bad. And I was young back then. I was only in my, when I first got diagnosed, I think I was 30 years old, and it runs in my family. So the first thing I do is I pick up the phone and I call my rheumatologist and I start yelling at him. And I'm like, you never talk to me about sugar. And he goes, well, what? What did I do? What are you talking about? And I said, I don't have this anymore. I'm off my medications. I have zero pain, zero symptoms. I feel wonderful. And his answer to me was, they never told us it was caused by sugar. I said, so I'm telling you so you can tell all your patients, and he's great. He does refer a lot of patients to me now, but right, Casey, it goes back to this. Yeah, but we didn't learn this in school. Okay. We're 10 years deep in keto as a medical approach. That is no longer an acceptable excuse to me. At this point, you have dug a hole in the sand, you've stuck your head in it, and you're refusing to see all of this that's happening around you, if not through my clinic in Hawaii, through all these anecdotal stories all over the world. And there's no excuse for that.
Wow. I agree with you. I think, yeah, go back 10 years and it was harder to find information about it, but the number of case studies that are piling
Yeah.
up and people that are reversing disease, like it's incredible. Like at some point you would think that there would be enough to have like this critical mass to tip the scale in the other direction. It doesn't seem like we ever get there. We have to keep trying to convince individuals.
Well, and you have to think, who are the powers that be that are adamantly against this? Big food and big pharma. We are the biggest threat to these two industries. And in all honesty, they've got so much money. We'll never, quote unquote, win, right? But the ripple effect is real. One patient, one podcast listener at a time, we can slowly start to affect positively the people that are meant to find this information. And you know what? They can go do all their big food, big pharma craziness over here. It's all for profit, bottom line, end of story. And then we'll all be over here thriving, healthy, raising our own chickens, having our own cows, whatever it is, right? Because we get it and we're open to the truth. And if you cannot be open minded towards health, you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? I have a saying in my office. So in my social media, I really try to put out a certain feeling so that those are the only type of people that I attract, because I don't want lazy and I don't want crazy. Lazy and crazy can go see somebody else. I'm not trying to deal with that type of individual. I want someone that wants to make a change and wants to be healthy.
I love that. And you do put out such a positive and welcoming vibe on all of your content, which I really love and appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah, that really shines through quite a bit. I want to go back to the hours and hours and hours that you spent studying this stuff. It was no different for myself. You learn about this and you think like, what is this? This is amazing. And then you just get sucked in. Do you remember, it's probably hard to recollect back then, but do you remember any key books or people or interviews or any like things that like somebody said that struck you that like, whoa, that's crazy? Like, does anything still stand out to you
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, and I hate to mention this individual just because of what ended up happening to this person, but it was keto clarity and cholesterol clarity by what's his name? Jimmy,
Jimmy
what?
Moore. Yeah.
Jimmy Moore.
Yeah.
So I read his two books and I would listen to the Livin' La Vida Loca podcast that he had. That was what got me started. Then I would watch some of Eric Berg's 3-minute YouTube videos back when he would keep it 3 minutes because that was perfect, right? And he would stick to one topic. He was the king of that. I read Wheat Belly very early on. I read Grain Brain early on, and I was like, holy smokes, look at how bad wheat is for us. And then you extrapolate out everything that has wheat gluten and wheat flour in it, it's the majority of our grocery stores. So those were, I think, the earliest books that I read. I liked the keto clarity and the cholesterol clarity because I felt it was written in layman's terms, and that was what I had liked about it. And so that was where I got started.
Yeah, yeah, he was a great source, and everything was very practical and easy to
Mhm.
understand. And then his personal life kind of took a bit of a deviation, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's cool to reflect back on how we got on track and found certain people that way, and like who really influenced us. And I don't know if you've heard about this, but I'm not sure if you found like, did you find Diet Doctor to be very helpful?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for reminding me about Diet Doctor because they had all these great recipes and short videos and resources. Later on when I became certified then accredited, you could apply to become listed on their website. I think through them, that was how I found Low Carb USA, which has now evolved into the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners. And this is such an important group because they work tirelessly, Pam and Doug, to legitimize low carb as a medical approach. We have guidelines. We have an actual medical society. We take no money from big pharma or big food. And we have our own journal, the Journal of Metabolic Health. So it's like we are hitting no one can say, oh, you guys are just snake oil salesmen. This is dumb. We're so legitimate. It's crazy. It's a joke if you don't see how legitimate this is.
Seriously. Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously. It makes me so proud the work that you guys are doing and that Doug is doing. It's absolutely wonderful. And you're right, like so legit for medical professionals and even just,
Yeah.
nutrition coach bums like me. Like it's such great work. And I'm so happy to say this after so many years. It was announced yesterday that Diet Doctor has reverted back to being all about the keto low carb resource. It had deviated for the last few years following the satiety per calorie scale, and it was just announced on Twitter yesterday. It's going exactly back. It's gone back
Oh,
to the way it was. I've just perused things. I haven't dug too deep, but it looks a lot like the old Diet Doctor that we all came to know and love. So that is
oh, good.
extremely hopeful and really good news because that was my favorite
It's
resource I could share
important.
with everybody and know whatever. If you find an article or a little video or you get to know Ben Bickman or Nina Teicholz or whatever, like use the meal
Yes.
planner. It was such a great resource. So hopefully it's fully back to what it was before because that was an amazing resource.
And I think this is a great opportunity to like let your listeners and followers know this medical community, which is very inclusive of nutrition coaches, exercise experts, patients, even. You don't ever see a medical conference where doctors and patients are sitting amongst each other in the same room. That does not exist outside of our conference. Okay. This is just a wonderful community that works tirelessly to put out free resources, what have you. Um, and the doctors in this group, all of us healthcare providers, like we're such genuinely good people that are just here sticking their neck out on the leading edge of change, risking everything to do what's right for the people of America, the people in Europe, Australia. We've got silos of us all over the world, and we connect is what's amazing. Are you going to go to Boca in January?
It's on my radar. It's a little bit tougher for me to get to. I don't have any excuse. You probably get there from Florida, and I'm just in Salt Lake City, so it's a lot closer for me than it would be for you. But I hear it's
Yeah.
equally an amazing conference.
Well, okay, so Andrea Salcido was a keto OBGYN, and myself, we are in charge of day one. And so we are pulling in amazing speakers. Day one is solely focused on women's health.
Ah,
Women are this entirely different animal of, I'm one of them. Like, okay, women's keto is different from men's keto. Women's carnivore is different from men's carnivore. And you can't discern that if you're just following social media and trying to get all this information for free. You have to work with one of us. And so it's this giant enigma, women's health, that is being managed terribly all over the world. Women are so desperate, and they're slowly finding us, our community. So we're dedicating the entire day to women. It's going to be amazing. But the other thing we're doing in Boca in January at the conference is we're going to have our first keto doctor powwow, where we finally get a room just to ourselves for like an hour or two, so we can just start to connect deeper. And hey, what are you doing for this? What are you doing for that? What problems are you facing from this insurance company? Or, what do we see coming down the pipeline as doctors? Because that's long overdue. We have to uplift and support each other to such a high degree because we are against so much pushback. And by doing that, we strengthen everything that this community stands for. But I'm saying this because I want the average person to know that there is a group of healthcare providers out there that care so much about the truth and truly helping people, not just medicating. That's not an answer. That's laziness.
it's almost like a little hard not to get emotional hearing that. That's so amazing. That's so amazing. You're right. Like you
Yeah.
wish the normal patient out there getting the runaround from the medical system and feeling like they're not connecting with their primary care doctor knew that there was a group of people out there that cared so much about
Yes.
changing the system. That's wonderful. I am very much looking forward to that first day in Boca. I'm going to try to be there in person. If not, I'm definitely going to purchase the virtual and watch the whole thing. It's amazing. The two things that stand out to me at conferences is that doctors like yourself and like the others that we see would take the time of day to socialize with people like me who are just showing up and trying to learn. Like Dr. Georgia Eid, not only did she see me, but she recognized me and spent like 10 minutes talking me up. Like, what are you doing talking to me? Like, that's amazing. And secondly, when somebody's done presenting and people get to go up and ask questions, the line of questions is half doctors, half lay people, and the lay people ask really great questions. They're very
Oh,
smart.
yeah. Yes. You know, and that's a testament to how inclusive this is. Um, you know, where patients can ask questions and talk to keto doctors in the hallway. Like, where do you ever get an opportunity to do that? I felt so bad for Anthony Chafee in San Diego at this conference because the dude could not get a second where he
Never.
was not being bombarded by fans and patients and people telling him their laundry list of medical diagnoses and asking for his advice, which puts him in a little bit of a tough spot. But he stood there. He was kind to every single person. Like, I was amazed, because I think I personally would have been like, okay, can I go eat lunch now? He was so unselfish. Yeah, I was
Yep.
really impressed by that because I did notice that.
Yep. I notice it at every conference he goes to. He flies out all over the world to be
Yeah,
on people's shows. He does when we do interviews, it's because he's staying up at 11 p.m., 12 p.m. Perth time. It's not the best time for him. And he's
yeah,
always friendly and happy. It doesn't matter who you are. He's a gem. He's fantastic. Can't say
yeah.
more. Yeah.
Very impressive human being for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's our community, right? Casey, like, wouldn't you tell me, how would you describe the doctors that are at these conferences?
It's just I've made the point that I think we could be talking about colors of paint, or we could be talking about how to trim lawns. And you're in this room with all of these people, again, doctors, lay people, whatever, but everybody is in keto. Just the energy and the vibes of just being there is so high. It's incredible. And you look around at Saturday afternoon, 2 in the afternoon. We've been going at this for hours, very technical presentations. Everyone's just sitting there calm, following along and paying attention and taking notes. Nobody's napping. Nobody's like crashing. The doctors are so kind. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And so, may I ask how old you are?
I'm 40.
Okay. So, do we think healthcare is going to make a complete shift in our lifetime? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But for you and I to be a significant part of the early days of this, isn't that enough? That's enough to keep your fire going, right? And just give you fuel every day because it is so pure and it's so well intended. And to be part of that movement, who the heck doesn't want to be part of a movement like that in a world where everything's going to shit, falling apart? Like, we are in a crazy time in our country right now, but there's still these gems of positivity in a world that is kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I see to my patients, I feel like they're trying to kill us. Whoever they are, I feel like they are trying to poison and kill us, right? So then the strategy is learn everything you can to keep you and your family healthy, and then just go hang out away from that madness, right? That's how we can do it.
I love that. Yeah. No, I do feel very proud of all of us doing this work and getting this out there. I mean, we've done this podcast now for 4 years. I do it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We put out episodes. I pay for the whole thing. I haven't taken one penny from any of it, and I absolutely love it. So
Wow.
it's the best. It's the best. It's fantastic.
See, your work is important. You're important,
Well, it's
Good.
very kind. Thank you. And so are you. And so I wanted to talk about your practice. Tell me how you started to establish this into a practice. Like, how did you even have the idea that, like, can I do this? I don't even know if I can do this.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people don't realize is I actually went to our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan here in Hawaii. I emailed the CEO, just throwing it out on a limb here. And I said, this is what I want to do. This is why I think it's really important. I just don't know how to do this legally as a doctor of pharmacy, not a medical doctor. And I'm wondering if there is any advice or, you could point me in the right direction. Within 2 hours, I got an email reply from the CEO of our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. I was scheduled a meeting with his VP, and she and I sat there for 2 hours and figured out how to make this happen legally, because that's important. Luckily for me, her best friend's daughter has intractable epilepsy, horrible seizures every 5 minutes. And they had been using a keto lifestyle for a couple years to help reduce the intensity and the frequency of her seizures. So the VP just so happened to already know about the value of ketosis. And when I said, hey, hi, I'm Jodi, I want to open a keto clinic. Here's why I think it would be wonderful. She was like, let's do this. And that was how it started. And like, something is meant to be when every single piece just starts to fall into place right in front of you, right? And that's what happened for me. And that's how I knew this was my calling. And that's how I knew that everything I had done professionally leading up to this point was preparing me for this so I could be really good at it. And so I am a very rare keto doctor in that I take insurance. Most of my colleagues are doing cash models. I might be the only one. I do it because I want to be able to help Medicaid and Medicare patients in Hawaii as well. I think that's the right thing to do out here. I'm not trying to get 100K followers on social media. I kind of like flying just below the radar because I'm dedicated to the people of Hawaii. I want to help the people in my home state first and foremost. We have one of the highest diabetes and cancer rates in the nation. And so I see patients all day long, and I built my business on social media just by talking about keto.
So savage. I love it. Good for you. That's amazing. So
Thank
what
you.
would it be like for somebody seeing you versus what we've kind of described already? The medical system, you're in and out. The doctor doesn't have much time. It's not his fault. It's just a system. What is the difference when somebody comes to your clinic versus the standard medical clinic?
Yeah. First appointment is 45 minutes. And
Wow.
again, it's covered by your insurance. All you're paying is your copay out of pocket. I do a complete medical history on you, a review of systems. I try to figure out how sugar toxicity is manifesting in your body specifically, because it's different for everyone genetically. I do a complete what I call food history. Okay. And we discuss what your exact goals are for this. Weight loss always comes last. Okay. We focus on health first. And then first appointment, I get all of that. And then I teach you how to correctly and safely wean off of your carbs and sugar. And in my practice, we do this over a 2-week period. Okay, thereafter, I follow up with them first 2 weeks and then every 4 weeks. And then we slowly start to spread that out over time. Because remember, again, I'm trying to cut the umbilical cord at some point. Like little bird, right? My keto baby, go and you fly free and you live correctly. All follow-up appointments are 30 minutes. We do labs. We see how you're doing. My partner is a cardiologist. We do all the cardiac testing on you if we feel it's appropriate. Most of my patients do cardiac testing every year. And just like Dave Feldman, but not in a study format, we have shown that with keto and carnivore, you can reverse cardiovascular disease in several different parameters. And we have even shown reversal of plaque in major arteries.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm
And
really glad you
it
brought this
doesn't
up.
matter if your LDL, it doesn't matter if your LDL is 50 or 350. None of my people are on a statin. The people that come to me refuse to take a statin, right? That's what we see through cardiac testing, not a blood draw. A blood draw doesn't tell you anything. You've got to do imaging. You've got to get on the treadmill. You've got to do all these things. That's cardiac testing, not a blood draw.
And it's independent of LDL cholesterol. LDL cholesterol could be across the board in a crazy wide range. That range that you just said is huge.
Yep, huge. It's huge. We focus on lowering triglycerides, getting HDL higher if we can. We focus hugely on fasting insulin and insulin resistance. And of course, everyone's blood sugars and A1Cs eventually get into the normal range. So this societal national focus we have on LDL, wow. Talk about missing the mark.
Well, it's keeping the trillions of dollars going, right? If that one card falls, so many cards fall. Like it's huge to be able to keep that going. So what at this point, from where you are and what you've observed and what you've seen in your clinic, what are you comfortable saying about LDL cholesterol? What do you feel just you can say this and not really have too much doubt about it?
Yeah. Okay. Tim Noakes showed a video at one of the conferences. And when he showed this video, I had this immediate flashback to school. They showed us the same video in school. And I was like, I think everyone forgot about this video. And it talked about how sugar, when it flows in your bloodstream through your veins and arteries, it creates damage. Picture sugar as these little shards of glass. And as it's flowing in your blood through your veins and arteries, it creates little nicks. Okay. Your body interprets that as damage. So then your body will send all of your immune cells to the area to fix the damage. LDL, primarily made by the liver, by the way, he's just cruising by. Like there's already this plaque that's forming of immune response. In the face of sugar, LDL particles become a little stickier, whatever. They change in size. There's a lot of changes that happen when you're marinating in sugar. It affects everything, including your LDL particles. It gets stuck to the plaque. It's not the cause of the plaque. It got stuck to it. It was already there. So we've been able to prove this, right? That when you can positively affect change in blood sugar and things like insulin resistance, it doesn't matter what your LDL is. You will not have plaque buildup, damage to the chambers of your heart valves. You know, we've seen reversal of heart failure in our patients. And you think of how much money is spent in cardiology drugs alone, right? And the whole time, because we focused on LDL and we forgot about sugar, we were missing the mark. Now, here's the other thing people need to understand. If I'm a cardiologist, I'm going to focus on your cholesterol count. I'm not going to pay attention to your A1C and blood sugar. I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I'm going to leave that up to your PCP and your endocrinologist. So it's this problem of everyone is working in silos and they're not looking at the whole patient. That's a common theme. We hear about it all the time. This is just another example of that.
Wow.
So
That
my
was
patients will stay on a statin. If they come to me on a statin, they will stay on a very low dose until we can get their blood sugars down within a certain range. Only then legally do we feel comfortable pulling them off of it. So just to kind of cover our butts legally for a while, they'll stay on low dose, not no 80 milligrams atorvastatin, none of that. I'm talking 10 until we can get their blood sugars down. Then boom, they come off. And that's motivating for them. That's incentive because they want to get off their meds or let's do this. I want to get off this statin. What do I need to do? What do I need to stop eating? Right? So it's good. It all works out.
wow, that's incredible. What kind of side effects do people notice, especially once they come off of the medication? Do they realize how much the statin was affecting things like their brains or their muscles or things like that?
Yeah. So, okay, the muscle pain, muscle weakness, I would say is the most common thing. But most patients will not stay on the statin if that starts happening early on. They'll mention it to their PCP. The typical course of action is their PCP will take them off of atorvastatin and put them on rosuvastatin, which is generic Crestor, which seems to have less muscle-related side effects. If not that, they'll put them on ezetimibe, which is generic Zetia, okay? But there's always going to be something on board because we're so scared of cholesterol, right? We don't understand it. And so that we tend to see a lot of that with the muscle pain, muscle weakness. Do we notice changes in memory and cognitive function? I don't know if you can attribute that to just coming off of a statin, because think about how much more nutrition people are getting. We teach them the right healthy fats, right? And the right amounts from something as simple as an egg yolk. So all of a sudden their brain is just getting all these nutrients. So is it coming off the statin or is it just this nutrient dense, higher healthy fat way of living that they've incorporated? Their brain is now just sucking in all these nutrients. It's probably a combination of both.
There you go. Yeah, well explained. I love that. Your explanation of LDL was fantastic. And I just heard this recently from Dr. Ben Bickman. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's like there is an alternate universe that exists where LDL cholesterol is hailed as the superhero of the immune system, and we live in the world where LDL cholesterol is the villain of the cardiovascular system. I thought that was so well said. That really stuck with me.
I love that. And he's absolutely right, because the only reason why the target LDL guidelines became lower and lower and lower is because you look on the American Heart Association's website, American College of Cardiology's website, who writes these guidelines, most of them sit on the boards of companies like Pfizer, J&J, Procter & Gamble, the bigwigs. These are not objective medical opinions, in my opinion, and he's right. The lower your LDL goes, the weaker your immune system. At what point in time did we move so far away from basic physiology at the cellular level? We know You need cholesterol for healthy cell walls. Wait, what? Okay, so our human body is made up of trillions of cells, and we need cholesterol for every cell wall. Yeah, that's how important it is. We need cholesterol for hormone production. Look at how many people have hormone imbalance issues. And we need cholesterol for a strong immune system. My goal for me personally is I always want my total cholesterol at or above 250. Why? Because at the age of 51, that means that I've got hormone balance, strong cell walls, and a heck of strong immune system. And that matters to me. Men are supposed to be at 220, 225. My LDL KC averages 190 on any given day. And I've done serial blood draws 1 hour apart just to prove that the longer you fast, the more your body's going to pump out fuel, aka cholesterol, LDL, and it's going to keep going up the longer you fast. So if someone comes to me and their LDL is 190, my first question is, okay, at the time when you walked into the lab and they took your blood, how many hours were you fasting? Write that down. Did you exercise harder than usual in the 3 days prior to your blood draw? Have you been more stressed out lately? Are you on your period? There are all these things that affect LDL, and doctors are not asking the right questions.
That's right. Amazing. Yeah, that was so well explained. I want to talk to you about one more class of drugs just because they're so popular these days. I've heard you comment about this and I found it very interesting. GLP-1 agonists. What is your opinion about the direction this is going? I think most people would think of Ozempic. There's a whole slew of different ones that are coming out for different indications. So there's type 2 diabetes indications and weight loss indications. Those are the same drugs as I understand, but different dosages, different goals. But as a pharmacist, what do you think about these?
May I give you both my opinion and my experience?
You can give me both. And just for the listener who is not watching, I saw Jodi roll her eyes maybe just slightly 2 or 3 times. Yes, I
Okay.
would love to hear both.
My opinion is that this is going to be the next OxyContin epidemic.
Oof.
Novo Nordisk is not a stupid company, okay? They know, the pharmaceutical companies know people are lazy. What? I can get a shot once a week and lose all this weight? Sign me up. 95% of people are going to choose that over diet and exercise because people are lazy. We're literally becoming out of the Disney cartoon WALL-E, where we're all obese. We don't even know how to walk anymore. And we just sip on soda and watch TV all day, right? It's literally heading in that direction. People just please open your eyes and pay attention. That's my opinion. It's going to be the next OxyContin epidemic. My experience has been, I have people coming to me that were put on Ozempic, Wegovy, Saxenda, Rybelsus, and Mounjaro by their physician. Zero education was given. Zero appropriate medical screening was done. So if you have a history of acid reflux, delayed gastric emptying, which is very common in diabetes, constipation, you are not an appropriate candidate for these medications. People are having severe impacted constipation. They are having to go to the ER. They are having to have sections of their colon surgically removed because of these drugs, but no one's talking about it. Why? Because I get emails all the time. So let's pretend I'm now Dr. Jodi, lazy, greedy Dr. Jodi. And I'm getting all these emails in my inbox from China, Vietnam, India, Mexico, Canada. Everybody wants to sell me generic semaglutide for dirt cheap. Nice. I'm all over it, Casey. So now I'm putting up ads and putting up flyers in the hallway in front of my office. Come to me to get semaglutide cheaper because insurance doesn't cover it anymore unless you've got diabetes. So I get, let's say I pay $10 for this drug, but I'm going to charge you $1,200 for a 2-month supply. Not only do I get your money for that, I get to bill your insurance every single time you walk into my office for a 3-second injection. Stop and think what kind of culture this is creating amongst physicians. You're a doctor. You've got this super huge house. Your wife probably doesn't work. Your kids might be in private school. You got one away in college. You've got 5 Teslas, whatever it is. You have to maintain this lifestyle you started. You're going to do this all day long, right? So not only is it creating an OxyContin epidemic within patients, it is feeding the greed culture amongst physicians at the cost of people's health. And at the end of the day, they still don't know how to eat or exercise. This is a disgrace. It's disgusting.
Strong statement. Those are some strong statements. Okay, this should be, yeah, and I appreciate that. This should be fairly obvious to myself and everybody else, but I just want to ask it anyway, just to wrap up. If you left your practice right now and went back to doing what you were doing before, would you make vastly more money?
I would make exactly the same. Remember now, Casey, I'm not, so, I don't know if that's the answer you're thinking I was going to give, but because I accept insurance, because I want to help everyone in the state of Hawaii, I even get out of state people, actually. I don't make as much money as people think. Do I make a living? Yeah. And I don't care. I don't care. I'm almost 52, right? I know how much I need to make to feed my chickens, feed my dogs, pay my mortgage. I know. I'm not in this for the money, and pharmacists make good money. They do. They make good money. And so I'm making about the same, little bit more. But my job satisfaction and my happiness level and my degree of fulfillment in what I do for patients every day, you cannot put a dollar amount on that. I'm going to die. I'm going to go to my grave knowing that I was part of something so important, just like you. You and I are equally important in what we do. And this is so important because these careless, lazy decisions that are being made in healthcare all day long in the US, they affect people's lives. People like you, your sister, your parents, your child. How did we become okay with this is my question, because it's not okay. But at least now there's an answer, and that's awesome.
You're the best. What a great answer. What a great way to end this podcast. I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. I could talk to you for hours. Hopefully, this isn't your only appearance on our show. I would love to connect with you either before or after the conference in Boca so you can report back and tell us how it went. That would be fantastic. But this has been an amazing conversation. I so appreciate that you took the time to sit down with us and chat. Tell us, where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
Yeah, I think the 2 easiest places is Instagram at the Keto Prescription, or my website, theketoprescription.com. But no, Casey, thank you so much. It's my honor too. And for sure, maybe let's do another one after Boca. Then maybe you and I can talk about some of the women's health topics that came up, because I know you work with female clients, and I bet people could learn a lot from it. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm thinking about KetoCon 2023, and there was a women's health panel, a keto carnivore type panel at Women's Health. And I'm thinking like, oh, I should go there early. I want to make sure I have a spot. And it's like, I'm sitting on the floor. I was 15, 20 minutes early. I'm sitting on the floor in the front of the room, like standing remote. This is so important. And it's so, it's so important to get people together to chat about things. Like when you're talking about all the doctors going and getting together, and just you guys talking amongst yourselves is so valuable. So that's going to be an incredible resource. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it just keeps getting better. I'm glad we're both part of it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And your positivity just gives me so much hope as well. When I get discouraged that this message isn't getting out fast enough, that the content you put out on Instagram, your website, all of it just exudes so much positivity and hope, and you're doing amazing work. So thank you again so very much for all the work that you do. It's quite incredible and inspiring. And thank you for taking time to be on our show today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Casey. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I'll definitely see you soon for sure. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.